delegation and I have met so many CEOs. We went to Davos, as you may have seen, to speak directly to investors and to ask, what's the inhibitor? Why aren't you investing in the UK in the way that we think you should? And a large part of their answer was because we haven't got the stability, we haven't got the partnership that we need from the government at the moment, and I'm determined that we'll turn that around. And just as I've turned around my party, we want to turn around the country so that we can drive forward to what I'm absolutely convinced will be a better future.
OK, so Keir Starmer, appreciate you joining me today. Thank you. Just going to break away from the business news very momentarily. You might have seen the QR code on the side of your screen. The Home Affairs Committee is right now examining the Metropolitan Police's approach to the coronation and the handling of the protests over the coronation weekend. We're just going to very briefly listen in.
Because if you view protest as inherently problematic and inconvenient, rather than as a necessary and important element of a free society, balance will almost always fall on the side of maintaining order and preventing crime, whereas the starting position should always be that peaceful protests should not be restricted and should be facilitated so far as possible.
And I agree with that, and the evidence, I believe, would show that that's what we do. Getting the balance right between the qualified rights of protesters and the impact is difficult, and protest is by its nature designed to get attention. We understand that. But I'm very clear that there is a strong presumption in favour of the right to protest, and that's important in a democratic society. But where that strays into crime, then obviously the police will deal with the laws as we find them. But this is something we are very familiar with, and we understand the sort of human rights position.
Constable Noble, do you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, just a couple of points.
Well, there you go. If you want to continue following the Home Affairs Select Committee, you can do so by scanning the QR code, which is going to pop up on your screen any second now. There it is. Now, the global chemicals group INEOS is warning that the government's 75% windfall tax on oil and gas producers in the North Sea will lead to a collapse in investment in the basin. INEOS owns the Forties pipeline system, the largest pipeline in the North Sea, which annually transports just under a third of the UK's total oil production to the mainland. It's linked to more than 85 fields in the North Sea, giving INEOS a unique insight into the investment plans of oil and gas producers. It says that investment is now going elsewhere. I've been speaking with Brian Gilvary. He's the chairman of INEOS Energy.
I think what we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years, we've come out of COVID. So if you remember, we went into the COVID period. It was really hard in terms of trying to maintain jobs through that period. We came out, we saw a bit of a bounce on demand, particularly out of China. Capital was starting to be back invested in the North Sea. And then I think what we're now beginning to see over the next year, 2 years, people trying to maintain the positions they have, but we're not seeing major new investment going in from the big independents. And that, the independents are the big lifeblood of the North Sea, and we're simply not seeing that at the moment.
But you're not necessarily seeing investment draining away either.
I think now what the situation is, if you look at the windfall tax that was introduced in the United Kingdom, which came along for reasons to alleviate the cost of energy and these super high profits we were seeing being published by the big integrated companies. A lot of those profits actually came from trading, and necessarily those trading profits don't all sit within the UK regime. So I think the idea of an introduction of a windfall tax made sense at the time to alleviate the cost of energy for domestic users, which seemed totally reasonable. But that windfall tax has now it's been increased by a further 10%, so it's now at 75% compared to the 40% where we were. Oil prices were $120 a barrel back then, now they're 60% lower. So if you look at where the oil price is today, we're 60% off those highs. And yet we still have this windfall tax of 75%. So it's very simple economics, Ian. If I have £1, do I put £1 into the United Kingdom economy, or do I translate that to a dollar and put it into the United States, where the tax rate is around 37 to 40% for the offshore production, compared to 75% in the United Kingdom. And in the United States, you've also got the Inflation Reduction Act, which is encouraging big green energy investments. So you've now got this ability to invest in the United States at a stable fiscal regime, and this has always been the issue with the United Kingdom and the North Sea, is that with the stability of the fiscal regime is a major problem. But also you can start to think about things like carbon capture around the Inflation Reduction Act. So I think right now the UK is not a particularly attractive place to invest from an energy perspective in terms of oil and gas in the North Sea.
The government would say Well, hang on, we're offering tax reliefs for investment in the North Sea that can be as much as 91%.
Which I think is right. So they introduced that as a sort of catch-all to try and alleviate the impact. But there are very few companies spending the levels of capital, and it's really the big integrated majors that are spending that level of capital that will alleviate those taxes. So effectively what that means is the independents in the North Sea are left then to effectively carry that tax burden, because of course if you've got those big tax 91% incentives and your trading profits are outside the ring fence, effectively, I think those big integrated companies will be paying de minimis low levels of tax compared to what was envisaged around the windfall tax.
Which is why, presumably, the likes of Shell and BP are still investing in the North Sea basin.
You'd have to ask them that question.
Right. What about Norway, though? I mean, Norway's tax rate is even higher than the UK's.
It is, and it's about 78%, so it's a very high number. It's one of the reasons why we exited as INEOS, our position in Norway, and we took that capital and invested it into Denmark, where again we have a more stable tax regime. So it's a choice for governments as to how much tax take they wish to take, but there are consequences for those choices. And I fear a little bit coming into this winter, as we saw last year, 60% of European gas, or rather gas storage in Europe and the United Kingdom, 60% of that gas came from Russia. That gas won't be available this winter. And it is very possible that we'll come into this winter and find ourselves with curtailed investment in our own generation of oil and gas in the United Kingdom, that we're forced to import gas again to deal with a cold winter, which is possible this year. And that gas last year was being imported at 10 times the cost of the gas in the United States, which is extraordinary. You could buy Henry Hub gas at $7 an MMBTU in the United States and import it into Europe or the United Kingdom at $70 an MMBTU. It's a 10-to-1 ratio. And so therefore I think what we should be focused on in terms of the United Kingdom is continuing to encourage investment in our own energy and infrastructure that we're going to need for multi-decades ahead, even as we think about the energy transition. And the UK government itself has said how important oil and gas will be out in 2050 in terms of balancing the needs from a power perspective.
Isn't the security of supply argument slightly diminished, though, by the fact that a lot of North Sea output is actually exported?
No, today actually a lot of that gas comes onshore. If you looked at last year, we had to import, if you look at the levels of LNG in last winter, when we suddenly, because the issue is a lot of our gas comes in from Europe, we import from Europe via the interconnectors. As Europe started to back off and hold its storage, we started to see more LNG. Now, what the United Kingdom did really well over a decade ago was to build a big infrastructure of LNG import terminals to enable us to bring gas in. But that gas comes in at a very, very high premium. And the issue that we have fundamentally in the UK is we have nothing like the amount of gas storage in the UK compared to Europe. It's relatively de minimis. Things like Rough, which was an important part of infrastructure that we still are talking about whether Rough comes back into play, are really important bits of critical infrastructure, as is Forties pipeline that INEOS runs. And of course we have to invest in that pipeline to ensure that the oil and gas is available to us into the future. And therefore we need to make sure that companies are continuing to invest in the future of the North Sea to enable that key piece of infrastructure to continue to operate.
I think you're about a third of the way through the major investment projects that you've planned for Forties. Is that in danger? Might this project never be seen through to completion?
I think it will be in danger if we don't see investment in the North Sea infrastructure that will generate the more oil and gas that we're going to need to see flow through that pipeline and flow into the United Kingdom. And it seems baffling to me that we would have a integrated energy strategy that relies on imports from the United States or Qatar or other locations around the world, rather than relying on our own key infrastructure that we have available to us at much, much lower cost.
Now, the Labour Party, Sir Keir Starmer, has said he wants to see what he calls proper windfall taxes. He doesn't think that the industry is paying enough as it is.
I think rhetoric when you are out of power, when you come into power, you then start to have to look at the policies associated with those. And in other jurisdictions around the world, as governments have talked about what they would or wouldn't do when they come into administration. The Biden administration is a great example of the things that he talked about what he would do when he was out of power. When he came into power, actually, it was a very different story in terms of what happened the onshore. I can't comment on what a potential future leader of this country should or shouldn't do. What I would say, though, is if you don't invest and encourage investment in your own infrastructure, you'll pay a much higher price if you have to import that energy.
Still to come on Ian King Live. We're going to show you how the markets are doing this Wednesday morning. Stay with us.
There is a lot of gas being fired all around us. शांति से इनको समझाओ वरना ये हम लोग It is an absolute carnival kind of atmosphere out here for Prime Minister Modi's decisive victory. These students are defying the prohibitory orders and now they're going to be arrested. We aim to be the best and most trusted place for news. The roads have been inundated. The only way out is to get people by boat. What is feared that over 200 people might have died because of these landslides. This on any given day would have been bustling with people, but today it's absolutely deserted. This is one of the most sensitive areas of Northeast Delhi where there's been clashes. I'm Neville Lazarus and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi.
Well, news that Japan has emerged from recession during the first 3 months of the year meant that yet again the Nikkei in Tokyo was the star performer among equity markets in the Asia-Pacific region overnight. The index closed above 30,000 for the first time since September 2021. Well, in Europe, stocks have been trading largely to the downside this morning. Here's the current picture. It's a busy day for company results. You can see the DAX there is the only main continental European index up today, and that's because its two biggest constituents are both trading higher. The engineering giant Siemens is ahead by 2.5% in Frankfurt as it raised its full year sales and profits guidance, while the software group SAP, which is Germany's largest company, is ahead by 1.5% as its results were also well received. Well, here in London, the FTSE 100 is just about in positive territory. It's more or less unchanged right now. Mixed trading this morning. The London Stock Exchange itself is the biggest faller on the FTSE 100 this morning. The shares are down by some 5% after private equity firm Blackstone sold down its stake. Meanwhile, the credit rating group Experian, it's off by just under 4% after its annual growth prospects forecast came in shy of expectations. Among the FTSE gainers this morning, well, Sage is leading the way, up 4% on its results. I'll be speaking to the CEO shortly. Outside the FTSE, Morgan Advanced Materials is ahead by nearly 1% after getting a push from one of the brokers. Well, on the downside, the industrial threads provider Coates Group is off by just over 4.5% as its results fell short of expectations. On the foreign exchange markets, well, there's been a bit of buying of the US dollar this morning, a bit of safe haven buying there. In fact, sterling off nearly 0.5% against the greenback. The pound also down by 1/8% nearly against the euro. The single currency, meanwhile, is off by 1/3% right now against the dollar. As for the oil price, well, that is weaker this morning after an unexpected rise in US crude inventories overnight. A barrel of Brent crude will currently set you back $74.78 a barrel. That's off 1/6%. Well, joining me this morning is the head of investment at Interactive Investor, Victoria Scholar. Victoria, good to see a really busy day for company news. British Land, not terribly encouraging.
No, this is a stock that's down about 10% year to date and about 30% over the last year. And it said that it had declining property valuations. You know, it's heavily exposed to retail and campuses as well. We know there's the demise of the high street, but more broadly, commercial real estate has been struggling with that shift towards more working from home. But it did say that the yield environment has been improving. You know, we're heading towards the potential peak of the rate hiking cycle. And it's interesting if you compare British Land to some of the house builders like Persimmon, because they've been reflecting this potential interest rate peak a lot better. We've seen these stocks fare much better in recent weeks, whereas British Land is still struggling a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. We had Land Securities on the programme yesterday, and they were making the point, that the sentiment in the sector is awful. There's not a lot of investment going on, and yet they're still seeing good rental growth, decent occupancy levels. So it's a really kind of mixed market.
Yeah, I think it really is. You know, on the one hand, in the the retail side, we are seeing those rents pretty high, but in terms of underlying valuations, they have been struggling. So like you say, it's a bit of a mixed picture.
Another company that's caught your eye this morning that's also reporting today, Mitchells and Butlers, the pub operator.
Yes, so it reported its half-year earnings and it saw adjusted earnings of £100 million, so falling from £120 million last year. But it did see sales growth and it had some strong sales over the Easter bank holiday weekend. But this is a stock that was heavily punished last year with those losses accelerating around the time of the mini budget. So we have seen the stock start to regain strength off those October lows. So price action has been quite positive. But of course, it's still grappling with a lot of those inflationary pressures around wages and around energy and around food and drinks prices too.
It is interesting, though. There's a lot of positive sentiment in the sector right now. I mean, J.D. Witherspoon's numbers recently were very, very good. Marston's yesterday seemed quite chirpy. We had Green King on the other day, Nick McKenzie, the CEO. They're all fairly upbeat right now.
Yeah, well, you know, I think beer is actually a pretty resilient part of the market. And we've also seen that people are still trying to enjoy those little luxuries while they can amid the cost of living crisis and that pressure on the consumers. So while they might not be out there buying new cars or buying electricals, they are potentially still going to the pub and having some sort of enjoyment there.
Yeah, we can all drink to that. Victoria, good to see you this morning. Thank you. Still to come here on Ian King Live. I've been catching up with the chief executive of JD Sports. The company says it's going to see annual profits this year of £1 billion for the first time. Stay with us.
SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR, S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time. You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820, or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamb Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
There. Are you dreaming of owning your own house in Ghana? Then you will need a well-documented piece of land that is free from troubles. I highly recommend My Africa Property for any size of land that you will need. With My Africa Property, lands are available in Pram, Sopoli, Tohenia, Ogome, Zodova, Winneba, and many other locations at affordable prices. These locations are about an hour away from the airport, only 35 minutes from the motorway, 10 minutes drive from Central University College, 10 minutes drive to the beach, and close to Pram Senior High School and Ghana Men's Soccer Center of Excellence. For more details, visit our website www.myafricaproperty.com or call our UK office on 0208 123 2523. For our US and Canada offices, call us on +1 585 184 994145. You can also email us at ghana@myafricaproperty.com.
Tune in to On Point here on Starr Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
Check me out. He tells me my energy is making him tired.
Yes!
How do you get the energy to do
I've been told that I have a lot of energy, but my goodness, I think today I have met my match, people. I have met my match, Miss Suzanne. Wow, amazing.
One of the things that's the start of the darkness. The whole of darkness.
So what did that?
Myself and the world will adjust. And 2019.
Forget the proverbial boardroom. Join me, Simone Frazier, on The CEO, the program that gives you the driving seat over your life. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. only on Starr Radio.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour show is your best source into the property industry.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Starr, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Turn it on. Turn it up.
It's your man. Bekutu, show them you got the cocoa set. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Harry Song, aka Mr. Songs. This is the Kingmaker Baba for the girls. We're here. This is Starr Radio. Don't go nowhere. UK, London. We they call them London for home. For here, we they call them London. And that's how you know. Just have fun and stay blessed.
Hi there, this is CJ Buckman, your life coach. And whenever I'm in London, I listen to Starr Radio UK right here. But guess what? You can listen to wherever you are.
The best radio show. Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
All around the world. In your car.
At work.
This is Starr Radio
on your smartphone.
UK. This is Starr Radio UK.
Are you ready to turn it up? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Your heart is aching. Smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile. Hey, this is Archie, and you are listening to Starr Radio UK and the Morning Show.
This is Starr Radio. This is UK. Starr Radio UK. This is Starr Radio UK.
Welcome. Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Enlighten your day with Starr Radio.
Love for you runs deep. They fade, Jesus, and that's what makes you great. You hold the world in your hand.
Okay, let me say massive good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth, and those of you on other planets as well. I want to salute each and every one of you, and once again say welcome to the Starr Radio UK Wednesday edition of the Morning Show.
Forevermore.
Today is Wednesday, the 17th day of May, the year 2023, with the time now 10:43 from the House of London.
You will never change.
Once again, welcome. But let me say good morning to my team this morning, Mr. Olayomi, Koiki, Mr. Francis Gayi, my able producer.
You are God.
And to Mr. Frank Davis back in Ghana as well. And also a special good morning to Felix all the way in Aberdeen, Kojo D here in the south, Olakunle, good morning to you, Bishop Adesina, and all the crew in that office. I salute each and every one of you there. Kudos to you, good work there. Tasino, good morning to you. Aziz, good morning. Shamsuddin, good morning. Pastor Mo, good morning to you. Sir Moses, good morning. Where you are, good morning to you as well. Let me say it this way, all protocol observed. So once again, welcome to the show, and share the broadcast with your friends and loved ones and invite them to like our pages. Now, as you know, it's a Wednesday edition of the Morning Show, and the Wednesday edition of the Morning Show ends exactly at 12 o'clock, so that we take you straight to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. So we got about an hour and a quarter minutes to just bring you everything that we need to bring, and it will be starting from the quote for the day, the weather forecast, and the travel update following suit. And then the global trotting will then follow, and then at 11 o'clock we have Mr. Koiki who will be joining in to bring you updates from Nigeria. We continue from there to look at some of the other stories making the rounds. The lines will be opened at 11:30, and then at 12 o'clock we take you straight to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. So in Nigeria, that's what's going to happen today. So wherever you are, thank you very much for tuning in. I am the one and only.
This is the morning show. This is the morning show with Archie.
Okay, so the quote of the day says what? It says opportunities either created or identified. It is either created or identified. So what are you doing? Are you trying to identify opportunities, or when it's been created as well? Are you trying to be in a mind frame where you are able to create opportunities for yourself? If you don't know, a word to a wise is always enough. As a friend would say, in enough. All right then, so let's move on. Now when it comes to the weather front today for London and the southeast of England, this is how the weather is going to be for you. We're going to be seeing sunny spells this afternoon, but patchy cloud and a few isolated showers will develop. Now patchy cloud and any showers clearing by the evening. Tonight, after late sunshine this evening, tonight will continue dry with clear spells for most, but a few areas of light cloud will also drift in at times. A calm night expected. Temperatures 17 degrees tops and 10 degrees lowest. Now pollen level going below, UV level moderate, and pollution low as well. Sunset 20:48 and sunrise for tomorrow morning 05:06 hours. And that brings us to the end of the weather forecast. It is all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Okay, let's take a quick break and I bring you the travel update. So wherever you are, don't touch the dial.
Tune in to On Point here on Starr Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Okay, so keep your eyes on the roads. Keep your eyes on the roads as we keep you navigated. I promise I'm on your travel this morning. Well, on the underground, those of you in London, well, good service throughout DLR, London Tramlink, good service, London Overground, good service there. But when it comes to the major roads in London, well, today we have A2 and Central London Red routes that has got serious delay. So if you can avoid it, do your best to avoid that. But moving on to the River Bus, good service there, London Cable Car, good service there. So that takes us straight to the final segment of the travel update, that's the National Rail. So on the National Rail this morning, Chiltern Railways has got special service, cross country, minor delays, Gatwick Express, special service, Great Northern, special service, Great Western, severe delays, Greater Anglia, special service, Southern, special service, and Thameslink, special service there as well. So as I would say, well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you, wherever you might be on planet Earth. Enjoy your commute for today. But you know what? Continue to keep those eyes where? On the roads. Okay, so just stay tuned and don't touch the dial. Continue to keep those eyes on the roads and have a safe travel today.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour Show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour Show is your best source into the property industry.
You are listening to Starr Radio Morning Show.
Welcome back to the program. It's now time for Global Trotting. So wherever you are, don't touch the dial. Share the broadcast with your friends and loved ones and invite them to like our pages. And as you know, this evening, yes, if everything works the way it's supposed to, yes, Olayomi Koiki will be bringing you Niger Voices once again. But now, some of the stories I'm going to be looking at this morning pertaining to Nigeria first will be 4 people killed in an attack on U.S. diplomatic convoy in Nigeria, and gunmen attacked 2 police operatives and 2 consulate staff when abducted 2 policemen and a driver. Secretary Blinken called. Let me take it again. Secretary Blinken's call with Nigerian President-elect Tinubu. Okay, so we'll be telling you more about that, but more details about that 4 people who have been killed in an attack on a U.S. diplomatic convoy in Nigeria is also ensuing. We'll be telling you more about all that in a moment. But moving on straight to some other stories making the rounds. As I did say earlier on, Okay, so let's move on straight to some other stories making the rounds. Nigeria 4 dead in an attack on U.S. convoy in Southeast. No U.S. citizens were in the convoy, said Nigerian police spokesman Ikenga Tochukwu, who was confirmed by White House National Security Council. An African peace mission to visit Ukraine and Russia. The African peace mission to Ukraine and Russia is an initiative drawn by Zambia, Senegal, and the Republic of Congo, Uganda, Egypt, and South Africa. Well, what are they going to be achieving there? Have they got what it takes to actually hold Russia down and say that, okay, let's stop it, let's see whatever is going on? Or what do you think? Okay, deaths as Senegal protest turns violent in some of the stories, and Kenya religious court please dig up more bodies. Oh my goodness. Well. More coming your way from there. Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Well, a Ghanaian influencer has been extradited to US for $2 million US romance scam. Well. He'll the fate. If she's faulted, why not? Okay. Now moving on, adopt a graduate approach to debt recovery, government tells the PURC. It's going to be an interesting one there. Now, Kwacho Fosu condemns NDC officials' interference in party primaries. Okay? We'll be bringing you more from that point on that front as well. The Capital Bank case, AG to ask court to commit Ato Etienne to prison today. Well, will the court do so? Banking sector cleanup, Reconciliation Commission must hear aggrieved persons, Gachi is also saying. But lots more going to be coming your way. And I see North South Court to deliver judgment on Jachi Kwesi's dual citizenship today. I don't know how long it takes them to adjudicate. I mean, they've been there all this while. I don't know. All those gymnastics that they've been playing there. I don't get it. Or semantics. But that is what is happening. Now, moving on straight to some other stories making the rounds. No fault eviction to be banned in renting reforms. Now, government is introducing a new law designed to overhaul the rental sector in England. But more going to be coming your way. Sarkozy to wear tag after losing corruption appeal. Now, France's former president was sentenced to 3 years in 2021 for trying to influence a judge. But he's going to be wearing a tag. Where will he run to? Where will Sarkozy run to? Oh my goodness. A UK car giant warns of Brexit hit to electric vehicles. Now, Vauxhall maker Stellantis is calling on the government to renegotiate some Brexit rules or risk losing electric. Well, we have Keir Starmer, also of the leader of the Labour Party, also calling for some renegotiation. Well, what are they going to talk about? The strong Brexiteers are going to say, no, we don't want that. This is what we just want out. So whether things are working for us or whatever it is, we just want out. And that's what they wanted, and that's where we find ourselves. Israel gave us 5 minutes to evacuate our home. Ataf Naban took a phone call before afternoon prayers. 5 minutes later, his house was destroyed. That's one of the stories making the rounds there. Biden and Republicans hopeful of debt ceiling deal. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says the two sides are far apart, but an agreement is possible this week. How is it going to be? China finds comedy troupe $2 million for military joke. The joke had linked the behavior of the comedian dogs to a military slogan by President Xi Jinping. My goodness. You know, I tell people that, look, there are some places where you know that there is freedom of speech, proper freedom of speech. You can say whatever, you can do whatever. But when you are in a place where you know that when even you cough, it can be misinterpreted and say that it means this, why do you go on to do it? But somebody say that they've got the balls. Why about that? Well. It is all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. The deadly New Zealand hostel fire was arson. That's what the police are saying. At least 6 people were killed in the fire at emergency housing hostel in central Wellington. All right. So, Starr Radio UK, Ecuadorian president impeachment trial has also started in Ecuador, and we'll be telling you more about that. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. There's one story that brought about the black in my mouth. Now, black taxpayers more likely to be audited by IRS admits. Why? And this is in Canada. Now, black Americans are significantly more likely to be subjected to tax investigation, the Internal Revenue Service has admitted. The IRS Commissioner Daniel Weffel said in a letter to the U.S. Senate that recent research indicates that black taxpayers are between 3 and 5 times more likely to be audited. Mr. Weffel said he was deeply concerned by the disparity. Why? Is it because they are blacks? So, default position, they are criminals? Wow. Okay, let's enjoy this tune whilst we prepare ourselves for the rest of the show, where we'll be having Mr. Olayomi Koiki joining in to bring you more when it comes to all the stories making the rounds in Nigeria. But here, now, the new song, the PIC Odoko. This one says Nyajidi. It's a have faith. Enjoy it. Music is a universal language, right? So enjoy it. But it all says that have faith. Maybe it's what you are saying, or what things that you are going through. It's not that you want to throw in the towel, but don't throw in the towel. Have faith. Things will pan out well. Enjoy.
SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Starr, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
like to say, your current circumstances doesn't determine where you are going to go or what God is setting out for you. And therefore, don't throw in the towel, as the song says. As we go about our days, we put our trust in the Lord, who is able to bring everything that we are trusting Him to pass. Let me say morning to my bishop again, Bishop Adesina. Good morning to you, and thank you very much. We should keep on the good work, and keep on the good work, my bishop, as well. But it's all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, PIWC. The new song, Nyajidi, or Have Faith. Okay, so have faith. Know that God will do it for you. If you do it, if you have faith, yes, He will come through for you. So let's depend on God, as we say all the time. Yeah. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Bringing the time now to 4 minutes past the top of the hour, and that's 4 minutes past 11. And it's a Wednesday, and we know we are always short of time when it comes to Wednesday. But we have Mr. Olayomi Koiki in the house, all ready to fire on all cylinders. So let me say, good morning, Yummy.
Well, a very good morning to you, Mr. Archie. Good morning to all our listeners and viewers from around the world, and welcome to the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. Like you said, it is the Wednesday. There's a lot packed up today. If we can't complete it, please do join us later on tonight on the Naija Voices on the Starr Radio UK network at exactly 1800 hours, which a lot of people get confused. It's just mean that it is just 6 p.m. Make sure you do so. But for now, we will do as much justice to the conversation and the news headline coming out of Nigeria. And I can say in the last less than 24 hours, it's not up to 24 hours yet, Nigeria is already again in the news around the world, but for the wrong reason.
Yeah. How are you doing, sir?
Well, I think I woke up on the bedside. That is very good. So, looking forward to Wednesday is something that I'm always excited, because this is where we connect to around the globe. Last week we had somebody saying that I'm still awake, listening to you in Japan. That shows that the world is so connected. And when you compare that to about 40 years ago, it shows that while I was telling my younger daughter, today, this morning on their way to school, I was reading the book and we were reviewing the book. It's talking about the space. And I asked her if she likes the space. She said no. And I said, maybe when they come back home, I should turn off the internet. Then you will understand why it is important that we keep that exploration into the space.
Well, we asked some people are doing much in exploration into the space. Others are not. But that's our story that is happening this morning. That happened, I think, yesterday. Now, 4 people killed in an attack on U.S. diplomatic convoy. However, they're saying that the people in the vehicle were not Americans. So they might be Nigerians who work for the consulate, and that was what has happened there. Who were the perpetrators and what happened, Yummy?
Well, from a lot of information, when the news broke, again, news tends to be a little bit delayed in Nigeria. These, from what we were told, happened just around 3:30 p.m. local time. But the news did not get to us here in the UK until almost coming up to 8 p.m. Was the news delayed for a reason, or was this just a cover-up? We don't know yet. But what we can say is that those that were affected, according to the U.S. White House, that yesterday I've said that there is no U.S. citizen, but these are staff that are working for the U.S. government in Nigeria. What is the reason for that trip? Why was the reason? These are still development as we're still getting them, out of the country. And like I said, the news that we have is that there is 4 people that have been killed, and we have been focusing on the 4, but there's another 3 individuals that were kidnapped. One is a driver, and again 2 are consulate staff. When we talk about consulate, consulate is all over the world. We have the Nigerian High Commission here in London, and if you do not understand, imagine we have God forbid 4 people being killed within the Nigerian High Commission here in UK. That would be a bad image for the British government, and that is why security in UK is a top notch. But what were they doing? From what we have gathered so far, 4 staff members of the United States Embassy in Nigeria have been shot dead. This actually happened at Ogbaru local government area of Anambra State in the southeast part of Nigeria, following an attack on their vehicle. Again, remember that when the convoy is moving like such, they would have security escort. Was this a target? Was this something that somebody gave them information that those traveling? Because when they travel like that, they're not going to be exposing themselves, say we are the U.S. Embassy consulate staff and this is our vehicle. Not even those that we have traveled with. People are very, very skeptical when you travel with a siren and a convoy, because nobody knows who is inside. But when an attack like this happened, the world has now found out that 4 people murdered in Nigeria, 3 has been kidnapped. What do we know from the police command? DSP Tochukwu Ikanga said there is now a joint security force have embarked on a rescue and recovery operation in Ogbaru local government area following an attack at the convoy of the state of the United States. I'm going to come back again to you in the studio, but like I said, it is news that have now gone around the world for the negativity part of Nigeria again. And this is what we've been saying continuously. This is what Professor Banji Akintoye have said. This is what the Biafra are saying. This is what Professor Wole Soyinka said. And let's remember, the late Dr. Malafia told us that there are still elements of those within the government funding the terrorism in Nigeria. Nobody has made any video or any kind of a statement to say that they are behind it. But we might probably find out, because maybe there might be a ransom or demand for the 3 that have been attacked, that have been kidnapped. But this is still something that is still going on, and I can confirm President Muhammadu Buhari is arriving back in Nigeria yesterday with this very, very sad news on Nigeria again.
Well, a bad image there, and the question I was going to pose, you answered it already. Who has anybody claimed responsibility for what has happened? We're not sure, but we know that they're going to come out with a ransom, and once they do that, we'll know who. As to whether it's the Fulanis, whoever, whatever they are, whatever, they're not supposed to be doing anything like that. Killing people? No, that is not on. Adax Breaker says, good morning to you all. The Labour Party is giving us some update from the tribunal. Said the Labour Party are already fighting themselves in the court this morning. Niger na curse. Okay, and Bishop Adesina says, what will happen is not new. What will happen is not new until Nigeria breaks. Boko Haram exploded United Nations headquarters in Abuja, and American citizens were killed, and nothing happened. So he's saying that virtually nothing is going to. He goes on and says, since they are reluctant to fast track the breaking up of Nigeria, everybody will eat breakfast. That is a big saying there. Bishop, thank you very much. But what has the U.S. consulate said so far? Any information from them?
I've been monitoring quietly, what the U.S. Is saying, but it seems that another news have actually overshadowed that as well. In as much as this is still ongoing development, like I said, this is still less than 12 hours ago. It's not even up to 24 hours yet. So we continue to monitor that. But the U.S., rather than making any reference to that, because we have to go from the U.S. mission in Nigeria, they've actually posted, Secretary Blinken Blinken spoke with the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday to emphasize the continual commitment to further strengthening the U.S.-Nigeria relation with the incoming administration. So, but we do know that during the press conference, we know that Joe Biden is out of the country. He's returning back as well to U.S. because of the debt of, the debt rising in America, which is already going on as well. So he's cutting his journey short. But again, during the, the press report in White House, one of the reporters there did ask the question, and the individual that was doing the press briefing actually said this is still an ongoing development. Maybe the U.S. Embassy is still trying to get as many facts, but probably before the end of today or before we come back on Niger Voices, we might have some kind of more information coming out. Who are these individuals? From what the U.S. have said so far, they are not the U.S. citizen, but they are U.S. Starr working with the consulate, and they were actually going to Anambra State, from what we are told, for what we can call, a kind of, movement that's got to do with, activities that embassy does in Nigeria. But also, not only they were killed, they were also bombed. That again shows that this is something very, very sad. As the assassinate and the murderers, citing the responding joint security force, they adopted 2 police operatives, and the driver of the second car took to their heels, but no U.S. citizen, like I said. The command, while reacting to the situation, regret that the convoy of such or any related will enter the state without any recourse to police in the area or security agency. So what they're actually saying that, in as much as we have embassies moving different part of Nigeria, but they were not informed, even though they had escort. So the state is now saying that they were not even informed ahead that such an important dignitary is coming into the state. Maybe they were moving out of the state, but from what we are told, they were actually coming into the state. For what reason, we don't know full details yet. But this, again, is the ongoing development in Nigeria. Starr Radio UK, I'll come back again to you in the studio at exactly 14 minutes past 11.
Well, it's a sad story there, because if they were shot, and then maybe because people want money or something, they shot them, and then they just died, somebody will say, okay, it's not good. But to burn them, go a further step by burning them, means that maybe they got, like, it was all planned. They knew that these individuals were going to pass by, and then they went onto that path.
Well, that has been, as a lot of Nigerians are waking up, because, like I said, news is always delayed in Nigeria. So many reaction is coming out of these as we speak right now. In as much as Peter Obi was in London, I saw him, but he flew back to Nigeria because there's an appeal election tribunal that is going on. So there's a mixed match of things happening. But the question is, was this a target, and was this an intelligent given that particular vehicle had maybe a U.S. citizen in there, but unfortunately there were no U.S. citizens, but they are those working on behalf of the U.S. government. And the reaction again is, while in the southeast, we know already that the southeast part of the country is extremely tense with the military, movement in there. We've seen a lot of movement of the terrorism happening across Nigeria, even up to yesterday. Remember, we talked about so many other killings as well. But the question is, why Anambra State? Why at this particular time? Is 17th of May today. By the 29th, we're meant to be having an inauguration of a new president. So everything is just, some kind of a question at the moment, but we still have to wait for further details from the Nigeria Inspector General of Police up to the U.S. consulate. But like I said, there's no information on the U.S. consulate mission in Nigeria as we speak right now.
Okay, information coming through said that the U.S. State Department has said that it's, for its part, assured the U.S. diplomatic staff in Nigeria was at work with the Nigerian security services to conduct investigations. So they are trying to find exactly what has happened before they make a statement. The safety of our personnel is always paramount, and we take extreme precautions when arranging travel in the field, a State Department spokesperson said there. All right then. Bishop Adechina says, my brother, Nigeria has been in Cold War since, but many were living in denial. Okay, so reality is trying to say that reality has set in. So now let's open our eyes. Somebody will say, shine your eyes. But listeners, it's Starr Radio UK, Mr. Olayomi Koiki in our North London studios. I'm actually here in the South studios, and we are bringing you updates from Nigeria. The president is back. Now, what has he said? How is his teeth? Has it been fixed?
Well, Buhari stayed back in London after the coronation of the King Charles III in just about a week ago right now. And the reason for that is he had to deal with a toothache that has to be done here in London. Not too sure why this was not done in Nigeria, but again, as we do know, the president have been using London for his medical trip. But the Nigerian leader returned back late evening yesterday, so he's going to be getting into the country with this news of the staff killed from the by the U.S. consulate in Anambra State. But again, the Nigerian leader who returned Abuja yesterday extended his stay in London after the coronation by another week. Femi Adesina, the presidential spokesman, in a statement told us that because of the dentists have advised Buhari to stay back. That is the reason why he's staying back. While in London, Buhari also participated here with the Commonwealth Leaders Summit, where he again expressed satisfaction with the conduct of the 2023 general election. Not too sure whether Peter Obi and Atiku will be pleased with such, but that will be done by the election tribunal. But what we can say is that there is no information yet from the media of the president on this latest killing. But we'll be monitoring, the network to see if anything comes up before 6 p.m. Local time, when we're going to be coming on the Niger Voices. Buhari was welcomed by his Chief of Staff, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Musa Bello, and all the security chiefs, as well as other government officials. So he's back while we wait for Tinubu to return back as well from his own medical treatment in Paris.
Okay, listen to Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, bringing the time now to 90 minutes past the top of the hour. And as Adak's breaker did put across earlier on, we have apologies. The tribunal, the election tribunal, where it's all unfolding. The Labour Party acting chairman Lamidi Apapa and the Director General of Peter Obi's Presidential Campaign Council, Akin Osun-Tukun, clashed at the appeals court on Wednesday. Apapa and Osun-Tukun were seen in viral videos arguing over a seat at the Presidential Election Petition Court sitting in Abuja. The Labour Party has been immersed in a leadership tussle, with Apapa getting a court ruling last week as acting chairman, pending determination of the party's leadership lawsuit by a federal high court. Yomi, do you think that is the end of the Labour Party? Because if just coming to the court and there's one seat, maybe this one say, I'm the chairman, I want to sit here. They say, no, this one has come already, let them sit here. And then, that has gone viral. That means that they are not even serious about whatever they are doing. What do you think?
Well, as many of the obedient believe that, the Apapa saga is got to do with the APC using him to destabilize the mission of the Labour Party. You're quite right. This morning as the court procession was going to take place in Abuja, there was some kind of not fighting but a bit of movement there. The faction national chairman of the Labour Party, Lamidi Apapa, confronted the Director General of Peter Obi's Presidential Campaign Council, Akin Osun-Tukun. Imagine you are the chairman of the party and you are still working against the party. Definitely there's a kind of hidden agenda there. And as we do know, our Nigerians, politicians are all the same. They work hand in hand, through kickback. And also trouble began today after the court officials opened the courtroom to the lawyers and the litigant for the day's proceeding. Mr. Osun-Tukun and the other party stewards are taking their seat in the gallery in the court when Apapa and his colleagues accosted the former, demanding that they vacate the seat. I don't know what it means by they should vacate the seat. Mr. Apapa said he was the legitimate leader of the Labour Party who should take the seat, but Mr. Osun-Tukun would not relinquish his seat, insisting that Mr. Apapa had no right to take the seat. It took the intervention of Josephine, the secretary of the Presidential Election Petition Court, to calm down the tense situation between Ms. Apapa and Osun-Tukun. Remember that again, Julius Aburo, that was suspended as the national chairman of the Labour Party, was caught in the web of leadership dispute with Apapa, who was earlier suspended by the party. So it seems that Labour Party, as they are trying to find out, and push this election petition out there, the internal problem is still ongoing as we speak as well.
Well, listeners, it is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now, interestingly, Bola Tinubu also has made a statement, and he's saying that he wants to hit the ground running. And in quest for that to happen, he said, "I promise to hit the ground running, unify Nigeria." Says Tinubu. But we look at the groups. We look at the Yoruba group. We look at the IPOP. We look at the various political parties and everything that seems to be going on. Do you think he can hit the ground running? And has he actually made any statement pertaining to the Yoruba, where he hails from as well? Any exchanges there at all?
Well, Tinubu, can say as much as what he wants to say. Buhari said so much in 2015, and for 8 months, Buhari was far away here in London, receiving medical treatment. Already, Tinubu is doing the same medical treatment. The only difference is he's not yet fully in charge, which is going to be on the 29th, but he's still the president-elect, as we know. Yes, he has actually said a lot, he was going to hit the ground growing, quickly. But one thing is, as the U.S. is now maybe finally accepting that Nigerians should wait for another 4 years, and allow Tinubu to focus on the real issues on the table. The Nigerian economy is very sad, insecurity, we just saw, what has happened in Anambra State, and so many other situations on the ground. But like we were saying earlier in the broadcast, the Secretary Blinken has now made a phone call with the Nigerian president-elect Tinubu. I'm sure his team will be excited. They've been waiting for this kind of call for a very long time. Now this call has happened, it means that maybe America is just now accepting that Bola Tinubu should be allowed, and the other political parties should wait for another 4 years, and allow him to focus. The Secretary of the State, Anthony J. Blinken, spoke this morning with the Nigerian president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu to emphasize his continued commitment to further strengthening the U.S.-Nigerian relation that has been going on for a very long time with the incoming administration. So that definitely means that they've accepted that is the incoming administration, regardless of what is going to be the outcome of the election petition that is going on. The secretary noted that the U.S.-Nigerian partnership is built on the shared interest, strong people-to-people ties, and those are links should continue to strengthen under the president-elect. Remember that just yesterday as well, the same person, Anthony Blinken, was telling us that there is now visa restriction for as many Nigerians that made the election to be a little bit violent, and that means that even though we don't have their names, some have mentioned that names we have been given in the past for America to other countries. Why omitting that in Nigeria? Now we do not know who is on that list, and the list that has been circulating, like I said, is not authenticated from the U.S. State Department.
Okay, listeners, it is Star Radio UK. 11:25 the time. It's a Wednesday edition of the morning show, so we'll let Mr. Yomi bring you the rest of the stories making the rounds. Over to you, Yomi.
Lawyers petitioned the United Nations Commission as Nigerian Army detains over 80 soldiers in a secret cell for the last 2 years. Yesterday we were talking about the Marshall Court case that is going on, and where 75% of discount, like a jamboree, where Buratai was allowed to make use of that to so many VIPs, and the property that is meant to be for Nigerians end up into the VIPs possession. Why do we have 80 soldiers in a secret cell for 2 years without trial? It's just almost the same like an average Nigerian that are kept. During the EndSARS of 2020, as at last year, more Nigerians are still being released, even in Oyo State, where we have the southwest of Nigeria. A coalition of the human rights lawyers has now filed a petition at the United Nations Human Rights Commission against President Muhammadu Buhari and a former Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukor Buratai, the now ambassador in Benin Republic, and also a Lance Corporal Idakpiki Martins, and 86 other Nigerian soldiers at the 8th Division. They've been kept there, illegally, for the last 2 years. The petition that was obtained, by one of the media, Sarah reporter, told the UNHRC that is based in Geneva, in Switzerland, that the 87 soldiers had been held for over 2 years in unimaginable, deplorable condition at a place not fit for human habitation. According to the petition, some of the affected soldiers have lost their sight as a result of the incarceration, while some have developed pal and whooping cough. The petition was dated in April 2023, which was signed by Austin Okeke, the national lawyer for the coalition for Peter Obi, and obtained by as well. Sarah reporter claimed that the soldiers were detained not because they committed offense, but were detained to make money. The petitioners noted that the 87 detainees in Sokoto are all entitled to 10,000 naira each day. That is about 300,000. And I remember I saw Lai Mohammed telling us that they've spent about 1 million naira each on most of the prisoners in Nigeria. So definitely, the longer they keep them there, that's about 3.6 million per year, and that means that that's about almost 8 million or thereabout for each individual. So somebody is really making money out of that. Because of the time constraint, we're going to take one more and end straight to the social media. Again, as we know, the court has granted bail to the musician Seun Kuti, orders Nigerian police to complete investigation in 2 days. They wanted to keep him there, for more than 2 days. They wanted to keep him for over 21 days, and it seems that he has now been used as a scapegoat, for disrespecting the police in a broad daylight, where the video has made huge amount on the social media, as we speak. So once again, we come back. It is still Star Radio UK. It is the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. And some of what is trending this morning, we're going to go straight to, Simon Ekpa, the Prime Minister, government in exile of the Republic of Biafra. There is a video that I saw on Omoyele Sowore. We can't show the video because it's got a bit of atrocity committed again by uniformed men. Two of them, when I mean two of them, we have the Nigerian Army and the Nigerian Police. We don't know what has happened, but this Okada individual, the Okada has been removed from him. They've actually hit him as well with a pole where blood is gushing out. And Simon Ekpa is saying now, this is how Nigerian police and other security are molesting, killing poor citizens, extorting money from them. Have you seen that? He didn't slap the criminal in police uniform. You will not hear the Islamic IGP ordering the arrest and the video them on the handcuff as they did to Seun Kuti, which is now in opposition. So the Okada was removed, but again they flew with their own keke napep that they came with, and this young man is now bleeding precipitously from the forehead, trying to get his Okada. While he was trying to do that, they hit a pole on him, and that made what happened as we speak. Simon Ekpa also went on to say, again, while we set Nnamdi Kanu free, the appeal court judge, I restated an injunction I expressed in the judgment in the case of Nnamdi Kanu versus the federal government of Nigeria appeal that was delivered on the 13th of October, in which I was privileged to write to the leading judgment. The court must never shy away from calling the executive to order when they resort to act of executive lawlessness. The duty of the court is to maintain a balance between ensuring that the law and order is obeyed and the protection of individuals from oppressive actions are also executed. Like I said, this government will be remembered for so many wrong reasons, especially for the abuse of the judiciary, where an average man cannot rely on the judiciary today. Bola Tinubu is trending at about 21,000 this morning, and I'm sure the excitement from his team, that the call has actually come true from the United States of America. That is also one of what is trending on all the news in Nigeria. And let's take a look at what Omoluabi Yoruba group said. Bola Tinubu is not the best Yoruba can offer for presidency. He is on his own personal ambition and not for the Yoruba race. He's only using some set of Yoruba popularly known as Omoale, Oko Atile. But we, Omoluabi, we shall stop them. So that is coming there. Also, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Media has also released that same statement with that telephone call that is coming through. So you can tell that the excitement is coming as well for the team Bola Tinubu as well. So let's now go straight to what is more trending as well. At exactly 11:32, we have just about a few more minutes. Appeal court is trending. Lamidi Akpakpa is trending. But Peter Obi seems to be picking most of the trend this morning. Like I said, it was in London that I saw the video, but it seems that he flew back to Nigeria because of this court election petition tribunal. So Peter Obi is trending at about 63,000 this morning, which is a huge number. And from Pitch Law, even the military support Peter Obi. His encounter with INEC chairman Mr. Peter Obi, Soludo, the U.S. Embassy, Hilda. So these are some of the things that is trending. Again, the vice president of the Labour Party is also put out a comment. I want to bring that in, and then we can close it. And later on in the evening, we will have enough conversation, surrounding the election and everything as well. So, Senator Yusuf Dati Baba Ahmed, for those Agbadorians, I don't know what that means, who says Peter Obi was deported and can't go to UK. This is Peter Obi branching by Dele Momodu London home to celebrate his birthday. So you can tell that, remember that Peter Obi had a bit of issue here on his way to London during the Easter break, but it seems that maybe some thought he cannot make it to London. But he's finally in London, and I'm sure he's right back in Nigeria, because Nigeria to London is just 6 hours. That's how far we can go this morning, and I'm going to return back again to you in the studio, Mr. Archie, and where we close it for now.
Well, listeners, that has been one of a kind there when it comes to the updates. We hope that the security agencies are working assiduously to, whatever that has happened to these individuals who were killed and those who have been abducted, they will all be resolved by the time we come to the Niger Voices this evening. But Yomi, before you go.
Well, tonight, is it a conspiracy or is it just an attack? Because we've seen a lot of diplomats moving around Nigeria. But why now that a diplomat vehicle was attacked, and specifically in the southeast of Nigeria? That will be the conversation later on tonight. How safe the diplomatic staff working in Nigeria at this particular time? That will be the conversation at exactly 1800 hours later on this evening on the Starr Radio UK Niger Voices. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. All right then, listeners, that has been Mr. Olayomi Koiki bringing you updates from Nigeria, from our North London studios. I'm actually here in the South studios, and we continue with the show. But let's take a musical break, and once we come back, we continue. This time round from a cover version of Bob Marley's tune, Get Up and Stand Up for the Ride by the Root Riders. Enjoy it, and I'll be with you. To my brother, yes, Alfred, good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining in as well, all the way in Ghana. I hope you're all doing well. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Reach up and don't tell me the heaven is up the hill. Don't know what life is really worth. It's not all that glitters is gold. All these stories have never been told. Now you see the light. I want you to stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Come on, get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Give it up, get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Stand up, get up, stand up. Stand up, don't give up the fight. Most people think a great God will come from the sky, take away everything and make us. But if you know what life is worth, and you would look for yours on earth, now you see the light. I want you to stand up for your right.
Your favorite Afro-Caribbean radio station.
Stand up for your right.
Everybody, and
Starr Radio. You are listening to Starr Radio Morning
Okay, listen to Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Bringing the time now to 11:37. But before we continue with the stories making the rounds, let me put this announcement through. It is from the Women to Women's Ministry. Women to Women's Ministry in London here. That is with the host Pastor Annette Hercules, who are presenting Supermarket Sweep. Unpacking food labels and what they mean. You know, interestingly, we go on and we go to the supermarket and we look at that and they said, well, they have that traffic light thing. This one is green, this one is amber, this one is red, and means that. Some of us don't actually have a clue what that actually means there. But, well, it says that she will be hosting, or the Women to Women Ministry will be hosting Rebecca Harris, who holds a BSc Global Nutrition and Health. And then they'll be looking at how to read food labels in a rush. So you go to the shops, you want to go buy something, how do you get it? So you don't be buying, junk. What is a traffic light system and how can you use it? Demystifying terms such as whole grain, whole foods, plant-based, low-fat, etc. Yesterday I went to buy some milk and there's a plant-based, and I'm asking myself, what does that actually mean? But it's going to be on Saturday, the 20th of May, this Saturday, exactly at 1 p.m. The venue is Fulham United Reformed Church, 472 to 480 Fulham Palace Road, London, SW6 6HW. So make a date with them. Most likely I'll try my best to see whether we can get Rebecca Harris, who's going to be the guest speaker on the show tomorrow. So just keep your dials logged on. Pastor Adeshina, let me say, my Bishop Adeshina, my apologies, he says kudos and thank you very much for you joining us and supporting us all the time. Starr Radio UK. Now we got about another 20 minutes to bring the first part of the program to a close, and I can take you straight to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. So what is happening? Let's move on straight on from Niger. Where do we go to? Now, Morocco has unveiled hydrogen vehicle prototype HUV. The manufacturers say the HUV model will be equipped with a central hydrogen tank complemented by 6 removable capsules to deliver a high driving. Interesting. I wish I could share the images with you there. Now, rail connecting Congo Brazzaville Point Nord resumes passenger service after a 7-year halt. Passengers service has finally resumed on the main line of the Congo Ocean Railway connecting Point Nord to Brazzaville. It's one of the stories making the rounds. Remember last week we did talk about some religious cults and some killing that has taken place there. Information coming through saying that in Kenya, police has dug up more bodies. We'll be telling you more details about that tomorrow, God willing. But African Peace Mission to visit Ukraine, and let me bring you details of that. Now, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announced on Tuesday that 6 African leaders are planning to travel to Ukraine and Russia to help find a solution to the war. Ramaphosa added that Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian leader Zelensky had agreed to receive the African Peace Mission in their respective capitals. The 2 leaders that I had occasion to speak to, that is President Putin and President Zelensky, agreed that they will be willing to receive a mission of the African heads of state in both Moscow and Kyiv. Now, I agree with both of them that we will commence with the preparation for the engagement with these African heads of state. The Secretary General of the United Nations was also briefed, and so it is. Okay. With both of them, that will commence with the preparation of the engagement with this African heads of state. and then mentioned there and said the South African. So is the African Union also briefed, said the South African president. The initiative was drawn up by Zambia, Senegal, Republic of Congo, Uganda, Egypt, and South Africa. The announcement came a day after Ramaphosa said South Africa had been under extraordinary pressure to pick sides in the conflict following accusations from the United States that Pretoria supplied weapons to Moscow, a move that will break with its professed neutrality. So they're saying that, you know what? We didn't do that. So what do you think about all that? It's all Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now let's move on straight to some other stories making the rounds there as well. This time around in Ghana. Let me say good morning also to Mr. Malik Dramani Mahama. Malik, I hope you are doing very, very well. I hope everything is good and the family as well. Now, government has urged the Public Utilities and Regulatory Commission to defer at least 35% of the next electricity tariff adjustment owing to the current economic challenges faced by Ghanaians. Ahead of the Commission's expected quarterly adjustment of electricity tariffs, government officials are reported to be impressing the regulator to be measured in its effort to clear the outstanding debts owed to power producers. Now, forest-related debts owed to power producers are reported to have increased by some 1.2 billion Ghana cedis as a result of the non-application of the proposed 44% increase in tariffs in the last adjustment window. Now, though the utility providers requested a 44% increase in order to clear outstanding debts, the PURC allowed only a 29% increase. The outstanding 15% is said to have accumulated on an extra debt of some 1.2 billion since then. Now, major independent power producers are reported to be threatening to switch off their plants if government does not pay up the arrears. Sources within government say while the government is keen to avoid blackouts emanating from the shutdowns, it is also wary of allowing the PURC to impose the needed 27.9% increase in the upcoming window to clear the extra debt. Report says government late Tuesday night urged the PURC to defer part of the expected increase until such a time when economic conditions improve. Well, so they are pressing on them to reconsider putting the whole 29% or 27.9% there as well. But what do you think? It's all coming your way from Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now, moving on straight to some other stories making the round. Okay. Now, after days and months, weeks and months, and I think years of this court sitting, the Supreme Court is to deliver judgment on Judge Kwesi's dual citizenship today. The Supreme Court is expected to deliver its judgment in the case of the restrained Member of Parliament for Sin North, James Judge Kwesi, who has been dragged to the court. The judgment of the court will put finality and clarity on whether the restrained NDC MP violated the Supreme laws of the country prior to filing his application to contest as a parliamentarian. Now, the petitioner Michael Ankuma Nimfa contends that the lawmaker held dual citizenship as a Ghanaian and a Canadian at the time of filing his process to the EC and therefore was not qualified to contest the election in 2020. Michael Ankuma Nimfa is urging the Apex Court to declare the restrained MP held dual citizenship and at the time he was contesting the parliamentary election in 2020 and that his nationality switch had not taken proper effect. So if now it has taken proper effect, did he contest for the primaries or in the primaries of the NDC primaries that took place last Saturday, or now he's lost his chance? Wow. It is Star Radio, okay? It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Well, there is this story that I will have to put across, though. A statement that has been made by Steve Hank, Professor of Applied Economics at the Johns Hopkins University. Stephen Hank has described President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo as an expert in mismanagement of an economy. That is a hard one. According to Professor Hank, it is rather not surprising that 87% of the Ghanaians believe their country is headed in the wrong direction under the leadership of President Akufo-Addo. Now, Hanks believe it or not. According to the Afrobarometer, 87% of Ghanaians think their country is heading in the wrong direction. I'm not surprised President Akufo-Addo has been the master of economic mismanagement, he wrote on a Twitter in a Twitter post. Now, Ghana's economy since the late 2019 has been going through turmoil resulting in severe hardship. The government of Ghana has seriously blamed the economic situation on the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war. However, critics such as UK-based Professor Hank have blamed Ghana's economic distress on the government mismanagement. What does he mean by mismanagement? Well. It is all coming away from Starr Radio UK. Let's move on straight to other parts of the world and let's look at some of the other stories making the rounds there as well. Okay, I did put this story across earlier on. In the US, black taxpayers are more likely to be audited. That's what the IRS is saying. So even when it comes to the auditing, you being audited, racism is set in place. So this is systemic racism, right? Now, black Americans are significantly more likely to be subjected to tax investigation, the Internal Revenue Service has admitted. Now, IRS Commissioner Daniel Weffel said in a letter to the U.S. Senate, that recent research indicates black taxpayers are between 3 and 5 times more likely to be audited. Mr. Weffel said he was deeply concerned by the disparity. Now, lawmakers have called on the IRS to review its auditing process. A recent study from economists at Stanford University found that black taxpayers were more likely to be singled out for audit than non-black taxpayers. Although the IRS does not collect information about race on tax documents, Daniel Ho, the paper's co-author, said news that the disparity still exists. This is partly or partially because the agency currently focuses more resources on auditing those who claim refundable tax credits rather than going after high income taxpayers with some complicated returns. So somebody like Trump will not be investigated. He can do whatever, or people in those that who have got the big ones who are taking the big monies will not be. But then there's little ones. Oh, they come after them. Mr. Weffel told lawmakers that the agency was looking into whether changing its approach to audits will reduce the disproportionate impact on low-income black families. Mr. Ho suggested funding and staffing strategies over the last decade may be to blame for the IRS prioritizing audits that are viewed as simple, but in actual fact are not. All right then. You all remember Sarkozy? Nicolas Sarkozy. The former French president, Nicolas Sarkozy, the one who, when they said the UN has passed a resolution that, Gaddafi's regime should be whatever, could be attacked, and this is the one who went on the rampage there. Okay. So, French President Nicolas Sarkozy has lost his appeal against a prison sentence for corruption. However, the Paris Appeals Court ruled that he could serve his time at home wearing a tag instead of going to jail. In 2021, Sarkozy was sentenced to 3 years in prison, including 2 suspended for trying to influence a judge in a separate case. The 68-year-old was the first former French president to go or to get a custodial sentence. Now, following Wednesday's ruling, Sarkozy's lawyer said she would launch a new challenge with the Court of Cassation, one of France's highest jurisdictions. Nicolas Sarkozy is innocent, lawyer Jacqueline Lafont said. We will take this all the way. The former president was convicted of attempting to obtain information about a case in 2014 after he had left office by suggesting he could secure a prestigious job for the judge. Oh my word. Is it turning to Trump who said, oh, can't you find some votes? Can't you find some and just add it to it? Maybe that's what was happening there. But it's all coming your way from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let's move on to some other stories making the rounds. Okay. Well, there's been a banter between the Republicans and the Democrats. Okay. And the story says President Joe Biden and Republican leaders have expressed caution, optimism that a deal to raise the U.S. debt ceiling is within reach following emergency talks at the White House. But House of Representatives Speaker Kevin McCarthy told reporters the two sides are so far apart. The standoff has forced Mr. Biden to cut short a foreign trip. Without a deal, the U.S. could enter a calamitous default on its $31.4 trillion debt as soon as the 1st of June. A failure by the U.S. government to meet its debt obligation could trigger global financial chaos. The Democratic president said Tuesday's hour-long Oval Office meeting was good, productive, sounding upbeat by the prospects of an agreement. Mr. McCarthy said afterwards he believed a deal was possible by the end of this week. Asked about the risk of the U.S. falling off a physical cliff, the Californian congressman said the great thing about the question is we've already taken default off the table. All right then. So it's all coming away from Starr Radio UK. If the Ghanaians are listening to it, they'll say that, you know what, even the US are going through some tumultuous or tumultuous time. So, well, we are able to do so as well. Okay, so don't blame us. Don't blame us, as Professor Hank has said. But well. One other well story, and then we come to the UK, and then we'll move on from there. Well, in China, a Chinese comedy troupe has been slapped with a fine with a 14.7 million yuan, that is $2.1 million, or 1.7 million pounds penalty over a joke about the military that invoked a slogan from President Xi Jinping. Now, the quip likened the behavior of a comedian's dog to military conduct, act authorities. They said Shanghai Xiaogu Culture Media Company and comic Li Haoshi had humiliated the People's Army. The company accepted the penalty and terminated Mr. Li's contract. The offending remark was made during a stand-up performance in Beijing on Saturday when Mr. Li alluded to two canines he had adopted which were chasing a squirrel. Now, other dogs you see will make you think they are adorable. These two dogs only reminded me of fight to win, forged exemplary conduct, said Mr. Li, whose stage name is House. The punchline is part of the slogan that President Xi unveiled in 2013 as a goal for the military. In an audio recording of the performance shared on China's Twitter-like platform Weibo, audience members can be heard laughing at the joke. I bet you're going to be looking for the audience and then charge them as well. But well, so that's why I asked the question. I said, if you live in the part of the world where when you sniff, even that could be misinterpreted to mean that you are being disrespectful, why do you go on such path? But somebody will say that it's standing up for yourself. Do you think that is it? Well, it's all coming away from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. All right then. Now let's come to let me put this story first, and then I'll bring you one other, and then I'll bring the program to a close. Okay. That will be the last one. It's a funny one. Okay. Now, no fault eviction to be banned in reform of rental sector. Now, landlords will be banned from evicting tenants with no justification as part of a long-promised overhaul of the private rental sector in Ghana. A new law to, my apologies. Why did I say in Ghana? In England. Now, a new law to be tabled in Parliament will be abolished. Will abolish no fault eviction and end bans on tenants claiming benefits. Interesting. So if you are a landlord listening to me, what do you do then? The bill will also make it easier for landlords to repossess properties from antisocial tenants. Okay, someone will say that is good for tenants, a bit of power there for them. Now, housing campaigners said the bill was a huge opportunity to improve the lives of 11 million renters in England. Under the new law, tenants will be given the legal right to request a pet in their home, which the landlord cannot unreasonably refuse. But the question is, if I have carpeted the home, you bring a cat or a dog in there, okay? Most of them, yeah? And then their affairs just go into the carpet, and at times those people who are handling are not able to actually maintain the whole place, and you come and there's that smell there, okay? So assuming the person moves, that means that it's up to the landlord to either strip off the whole the carpet in the whole building and repaint the whole place. So can you just imagine that? And that's why some landlords behave that way. And then when it comes to those who are on benefits, some people say, I don't want to do that because they are not in a substantive job. And then the next moment, the authorities will say, okay, no, you don't qualify for the benefit because you're not going to seek for another job. We want it out and stuff like that. But what do you think about all that? Well. This is Starr Radio UK, and this is where I will bring the first part of the program to a close. But I promise you that lovely story. So let's bring that one and then we call it a day. Now, interestingly, a commuter said she was stunned after returning to a vehicle to discover a car park full of vehicles had been ticketed following a council mistake. So the picture that I have, you can just see it. So it's like a train station car park where people have left their vehicles and and then it's all been ticketed. Now the vehicles were parked at the Duke Street car park in High Wycombe, Buckinghamshire on Monday. It is understood Buckinghamshire Council put a small sign stating it was closed for relining. The council has now said the tickets should not have been issued and it will cancel the enforcement notices. Can you just imagine you come and then you see that, my goodness, and then you go bonkers. Well. But the council has seen sense there. One time I want to park somewhere and then we put a wrong registration in. And then it happened that when we came, after some time we came back and we said, I've got a ticket. But some of the councils are good, so we called them. I went on the net, just said no, we had another car like that, and we showed them that. So that was the mistake that happened. So, but then they just took it off and then wrote it off, and we had our peace of mind. But that's why I bring the program to a close. So if you have faced anything of the sort, well, good luck to you. But you know what? Continue to enjoy your day. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. I take you straight to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. Stay tuned. Don't you go away.
Yeah, I say the Honourable Lady, we will share the results of those pilot schemes, and I would just reiterate what the Prime Minister said, I think PMQs last week to the Honourable gentleman from Caithness and Sutherland, which is that the Scottish Government should U-turn on this issue. They should respect the fishing communities, know what's best to preserve stocks, they know what's best for future generations, and I think the Scottish Government do well to pay attention to them.
David Jewett. Thanks, Mr. Speaker. I know my humble friend will agree with myself and the fishing industry in Scotland that we are not against conservation and sustainability in principle, but does my honourable friend agree that the haste with which the Scottish Government is trying to implement its highly protected marine areas policy is yet another case of the green tail wagging the SNP dog, and this could have an extremely damaging consequence for coastal communities right across Scotland, including mine in Bamford Buchan?
those that have heard the question, the answer is yes.
Right, we now come to Prime Minister's questions. Cat Smith.
Question number one, Speaker.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I have been asked to reply on behalf of my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister. He is currently travelling to Japan to attend the G7 summit. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that colleagues from across the House will join me in congratulating Liverpool for its wonderful staging of the Eurovision Song Contest on behalf of Ukraine. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others, and in addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
The Royal Lancaster Infirmary is a 130-year-old crumbling hospital and was meant to be one of the government's 40 new hospitals. However, the funding announcement has been delayed 4 times already, so can the Deputy Prime Minister reassure my constituents that this is not going to be another broken Tory promise?
I can absolutely assure the Honourable Lady that we remain fully committed to those 40 hospitals from our manifesto, and indeed we have already provided £3.9 billion worth of initial capital.
Craig McKinley.
Mr. Speaker, I have a very serious matter affecting every constituency to bring to my right honourable friend's attention. Amazon have been facilitating the sale of counterfeit postage stamps from China, virtually perfect except for the barcode. I've contacted the NCA, the National Trading Standards, and I'm afraid I've received woeful responses. I've now sent my concerns to the Serious Fraud Office and the Economic Crime Unit of the City of London Police. Amazon are patently facilitating remittances of illegal gotten cash, and I believe this is in contravention of the Forgery and Counterfeiting Act 1981. Can my right honourable friend assist me in taking this further?
Well, Mr. Speaker, may I pay tribute to my honourable friend? I know how hard he has been campaigning on this important issue. The Home Secretary will have heard his remarks. I would say that the Digital Markets and Competition and Consumer Bill does put duties on those platforms, and ultimately, if fraud is being perpetrated, the police should take action.
We now come to the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Angela Rayner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's a pleasure to welcome yet another Deputy Prime Minister to the dispatch box. The third deputy that I've faced in 3 years, and you know what they say, the third time's a charm. And I'm also pleased to note, Mr. Speaker, that the Prime Minister has a working class friend, finally. I seem to remember that after the loss of 300 Conservative seats at last year's local elections, the Right Honourable gentleman resigned, saying someone must take responsibility. After 1,000 more Conservative councillors have been given the boot by voters, who does he think is responsible now?
Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of the Right Honourable Lady's opening remarks, can I just say it really is a pleasure to see the Right Honourable Lady here today. I was, though, expecting to face the Labour leader's choice for the next Deputy Prime Minister if they win the election, so I'm surprised that the Lib Dem leader isn't taking questions today. Mr. Speaker, you will forgive me, Mr. Speaker, you will forgive me if I take the Right Honourable Lady's predictions with a pinch of salt. After all, she confidently predicted that the Right Honourable Member for Islington North would one day be Prime Minister. Remember, this is a man who wanted to abolish the army, scrap Trident, withdraw from NATO and abandon Ukraine. And what did she say to that? She couldn't wait for him to be Prime Minister.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's absolutely amazing that while the Labour Party is preparing to govern with a Labour majority, his party is starting to prepare for opposition, Mr. Speaker. And this week at the National Conservative Conference, a member for Devisers blamed the country's problems on a new religion. He even hit out at the dystopian fantasy of John Lennon. The member for Pentonstone and Stockbridge said identifying falling birthing rates is the overarching threat to the UK. She criticised woke teaching for destroying children's souls and causing self-harm and suicide among people. And the Right Honourable Member for North East Somerset really let the cat out the bag when he said parties that try to gerrymander end up finding their clever schemes come back to bite them, as dare I said we found when insisting on voter ID. The Right Honourable gentleman opposite, while working in Number 10, said he had to listen to the radio every morning to find out what was really going on in the country. Apparently, he was surprised on a daily basis by what he learned, and most of his time was spent on day-to-day crisis management. 11 years on, Mr. Speaker, nothing has changed.
Deputy Prime Minister.
I'm not quite sure what the question was then, Mr. Speaker. But if she wants to talk about this sort of thing, we all know what's going on with her and her leader. It's all lovey-dovey on the surface. They turn it on for the cameras, but as soon as they're off, it's a different story. They're at each other's throats. Mr. Speaker, they're the Phil and Holly of British politics.
Deputy Leader.
Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The reality is, after 13 years of Tory rule, they're still lurching from crisis to crisis and wallowing in their own mess. They can't solve the crisis because they are the crisis. The honourable member opposite should take more note of what's happening at his conferences in his party before trying to make up what's happening in mine. The Prime Minister pledged that by March, NHS waiting lists would fall. It's now May. So can he tell us, since he made that pledge, is the number of people waiting on late waiting lists higher or lower?
Mr. Speaker, we are making good progress, for example, with two-year waiting lists. But the Right Honourable Lady seems to forget a crucial fact. The United Kingdom experienced an unprecedented pandemic. Right before COVID, GP satisfaction was high. Delayed discharges were half. Ambulance targets were being met, and she knows that right now in Labour-run Wales, exactly the same challenges are being faced. The difference between us is, on this side of the house, we've got a plan to fix it, while she's too busy playing petty politics.
Mr. Speaker, even before the pandemic, waiting lists were going up. So it doesn't wash that this government, after 13 years in power, is blaming everybody but themselves for what people are having to put up with. He appears to be claiming that 11,000 patients waiting more than 18 months is an achievement. The last Labour government reduced waiting times from 18 months to 18 weeks. And he can come back to me when he's achieved that. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, waiting lists are longer than when the Prime Minister made his pledge 5 months ago. The number of people in England waiting to start hospital treatment is the highest since records began. 7.3 million patients left waiting. Now, I know the Prime Minister has his own private GP, so maybe he doesn't appreciate the urgency, but he's left people like my constituent Carol waiting for over a year for an urgent appointment, moved from waiting list to waiting list with appointments cancelled again and again. So if not now, when will waiting lists fall?
It will continue till I hear the end of this question. If I get any more interruptions, it will take longer. Angela Ray.
Mr. Speaker, they don't want to hear the question because they know the answer. They know the answer is that they failed the British people. So when will waiting list fall?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, I would gently say to the Right Honourable Lady, if she cares that much about access to our healthcare, why is she opposing our minimum service levels? They will provide core emergency services with vital cover during healthcare strikes. Does she not think that vulnerable patients deserve that level of care, or is she too weak to stand up to her union paymasters?
Mr. Speaker, we all want minimum service levels. It's this government that have failed to provide minimum service levels in all of our trains, in all of our public services, because they've run them down and mismanaged them for the last 13 years. Now, it's not just waiting times, Mr. Speaker. 13 years after the Landmark Marmot review into child poverty, Sir Michael says this government is on track to make child poverty worse, with more than a quarter of our children living in poverty last year. When I was a young mum, I remember the sick feeling in my stomach not knowing if my wages would cover the bills. Yet his government has taken a wrecking ball to measures by the last Labour government to eradicate child poverty, even abolishing the child poverty unit. They tried to justify this by saying they no longer needed a child poverty unit because they've abolished the child poverty targets. So can he tell us what level of poverty he considers to be a success?
I'd say to the Right Honourable Lady, this comprehensive schoolboy is not going to take any lectures from the party opposite about the lives of working people. What I would say is that we have introduced record increases in the national living wage, something that this party introduced, the party opposite failed to do so. And we have taken 1 million working age people out of poverty altogether. That is the record of my party, and one of which I am very proud.
Mr. Speaker, the last Labour government made it their mission to reduce the number of children in poverty by 1 million. We achieved that. Under the Tories, child poverty is nearly back to the level it was when Labour last inherited the Tory mess. After 13 years of the Tories, they're stuck in a conveyor belt of crisis. And while his party is preparing for opposition with their Trump Tribute Act conference over the road, Labour are focused on fixing the real problems facing British people. The Tories have picked their side. They're for the vested interests, for the oil companies and the bankers, for those that are profiting from the crisis and not suffering from it. Whether it's failing the millions of people anxiously waiting for treatment or overseeing a rise in child poverty. And while his colleagues spout nonsense at their carnival of conspiracy, I want to know, when will his party stop blaming everybody else and realise that the problem is them?
Mr. Speaker, I will proudly defend our record in office. Crime down 50%, near record levels of employment, a record minimum wage. And what, Mr. Speaker, what's their record? 4 general election defeats, 30 promises already broken, and 1 leader who let anti-Semitism run wild. That is why the British people will never trust the Labour Party.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Would my right honourable friend please send his condolences to the family of Hilton Ward councillor Gillian Lemon, who at the young age of 52 tragically died partway through the election count on Friday. This means that the whole election for all 3 councillors has had to be voided, even though the returning officer was ready to declare 3 Conservative councillors for the Hilton Ward. Perhaps following this dreadful experience, my right honourable friend will confirm that the best way to thank Councillor Gillian Lemon for her service is for the good people of Hilton Ward in South Derbyshire to vote again 3 times for the 3 Conservative candidates on Thursday the 15th of June.
Well, Mr. Speaker, may I extend my deepest sympathies on behalf of these benches and the Conservative Party to Councillor Gillian Lemon's family. We all know how incredibly hard local councillors work, and she was a strong representative of South Derbyshire. And like my honourable friend, I do hope that the people of Hilton Ward will reflect on this by voting for Conservative candidates at the forthcoming election.
We now come to the Deputy Leader of the SNP, Murray Black.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2016, the Deputy Prime Minister told his constituents in a blog that it was his duty to, and I quote, furnish them with all the facts that are available with regards to Brexit. Today, Brexit Britain faces higher food prices, a lack of workers, a shrinking economy, and a decline in living standards. Why is he happy to ignore those facts?
The Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we have one of the fastest growth rates in the whole of the G7 since Brexit. And we all know, and in fairness, we all know the policy of the SNP, and they said it this weekend, and I quote, we need to undo Brexit. But let me tell you, if I were them, I'd start by undoing the mess they've left Scotland in and start working with the United Kingdom government and focus on the priorities of the Scottish people, not the priorities of their party.
Murray Black.
Check the date. Mr. Speaker, the only thing more deluded than that defence of Brexit is the Labour Party's support of it. Now, just today, the world's fourth largest car manufacturer said that Brexit was, and again I quote, a threat to our export business and the sustainability of our UK manufacturing options. Even Nigel Farage can admit that Brexit has failed. So, Mr. Speaker, why can't he?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I would say to the Honourable Lady, one of the best ways of getting behind industry in this country is get behind the trade deals we're striking with many countries around the world, which they have singularly failed to oppose. And I see last week the SNP promised to build a new Scotland. I don't know whether she's aware, but the SNP have been in power for 13 years. Perhaps they should stop their focus on independence and focus on the priorities of the Scottish people.
Mr. McVeigh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituency has a problem with travellers. My constituency has a problem with travellers pitching on private land and common land and causing a nuisance currently on Parkgate Industrial Estate in Knutsford. Either the police don't have sufficient powers to deal with this issue, or they do have sufficient powers but they're not using them. So will the Deputy Prime Minister get the government to speak with Cheshire Police to ensure that they do have the powers to deal with this plight on our local community and that they use them?
Well, the Right Honourable Lady, my Right Honourable friend, is absolutely right to highlight the misery caused by unauthorised encampments. I've seen this in my own constituency as well. I understand that Home Office officials do regularly liaise with the National Police Chiefs Council on this, but of course my Right Honourable friend, the Home Secretary, will have heard my Right Honourable friend's representations, and I trust she will act on those.
Sir Geoffrey Donaldson. Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Prime Minister will be aware of the ongoing concerns of unionists in Northern Ireland about our ability to trade freely within the United Kingdom and its internal market, given the continued application of EU law on the manufacture of all goods in Northern Ireland. We now have proposals for a future border operating model that could potentially create further barriers to trade between Northern Ireland and Great Britain. Will the Deputy Prime Minister give me an assurance that the Government will, in law, protect Northern Ireland's ability to trade freely within and with the rest of the United Kingdom? Prime Minister.
Yes, well, I would like to say that we've already shown a willingness to legislate to protect Northern Ireland's place within the Union, and we're committed to providing exactly the protections that the Right Honourable Gentleman refers to around Northern Ireland's unfettered access to the whole United Kingdom market. So I can give those assurances, and of course we stand ready to work with the Right Honourable Gentleman and representatives across unionism to reflect the further steps required to strengthen our precious union.
Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Throughout the early hours of Saturday morning, I was out with Kathy, Peter, Joe and Tim, who volunteer as Guildford Street Angels. I paid tribute to them and all the volunteers who are out every weekend and in all weathers. But, Mr. Speaker, it's an absolute disgrace that the Liberal Democrat-run council shut the public loose. At night, there are no single-sex spaces for our young women, and they are seeking out dark, secluded areas if they're caught short, which is dangerous. They are at increased risk of sexual assault. Will my right honourable friend join me in calling for the immediate reopening of the town centre loos in Guildford?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for raising this very important issue, and sadly, I'm afraid that's what one might expect from a Lib Dem-run council. I do join her in thanking the Guildford Street Angels for all of their efforts, and I'm sure that they and she will continue to make those views known to Guildford Borough Council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Many of my constituents are struggling to pay the bills and put food on the table. Food prices have risen by over 19% in the last year, with the cheapest infant formula up 45%, gas prices up 129%, electricity up 67%. Many report borrowing more money than this time last year, with car manufacturers threatening to move production. The OBR saying 100 billion has been lost from the economy forever, and wages falling further and further behind basic living expenses. So does he really still believe his government's kamikaze Brexit is the living for the people of these isles?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I certainly do believe that, Mr. Speaker, and I would say to the members on those benches that it's only because of the strength of our United Kingdom that we're able to afford the sort of interventions, for example, that we've had with the cost of living, with over £3,300 for every single family in our United Kingdom, paid for by a 75% windfall tax on oil and gas companies. That's the United Kingdom delivering on the cost of living.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2016, we secured over £300 million for the modernisation of A&E services in Shropshire. 6 years on, that money has still not been spent and construction hasn't started. I have a real concern about the quality of managers within our local NHS trust, that this decision has not been taken. What can my right honourable friend do to help us in Shropshire to ensure that finally the £312 million is spent and that A&E services are modernised, because there is nothing more important than the safety of constituents when they go into A&E services.
Prime Minister.
Well, I pay tribute to my honourable friend for raising this issue. I know that his constituents are anxious for building work to get underway as soon as possible, and I know that the Department for Health are working closely with NHS England and the Trust to support the development of the scheme, and the Trust is due to submit plans to the Department for Health in the coming months, and the Department will work at pace to review those plans.
Thank
you, Mr. Speaker. Leaseholders in Battersea are trapped in an outdated and unfair leasehold system. The Secretary of State said, and I quote, "The government would absolutely maintain a commitment to abolish the leasehold system and would bring forward legislation shortly." But we now know that this is no longer the case. So, Deputy Prime Minister, why has the government yet again done another U-turn and yet again broken another promise to leaseholders to scrap its plans to end the outdated leaseholder system?
Well, I'd like to reassure the Honourable Lady and members of this House that the government is committed to reforming the leaseholder system to give homeowners greater control and give cheaper access to leaseholder renewal, including a 990-year extension with zero financial ground rent, and we will set out plans for further reforms later in this Parliament.
So Desmond Sway.
What would be a reason for extending the
general election franchise to settle the EU citizens a population of voters equal to the number in Wales?
Well, I think my honourable friend is referring to the plans from the party opposite. And it's actually quite interesting that this week, while we're pushing ahead with legislation to break the smuggling gangs, what's Labour's big idea? Give foreign nationals a say in our elections. So there we have it. While the Conservatives will stop the boats, Labour will rig the votes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was concerned to read last week that the Prime Minister had to be airlifted to a pharmacy in Southampton after suffering electoral dysfunction. Several weeks earlier, he flew all the way from Lancashire to Yorkshire by private jet. Meanwhile, angry rail commuters face the reality of cancellations, longer journey times, and are unable to get to work on time as operators shed services. The public think that the Prime Minister's got his head in the clouds. They're right, aren't they?
It is quite extraordinary, Mr. Speaker, to take lectures from the party opposite about the railways when actually the head of the train drivers' union actually sits on Labour's NEC. And indeed, she was described by the right honourable lady, the deputy leader of the Labour Party, as, quote, one of us. No wonder Labour won't stand up to the militant rail unions. They literally let them drive their policies.
Mr. Speaker, incredible regeneration work is taking place on Teesside, led by our Mayor, Ben Houch. We have seen a shameful attempt to smear the amazing Teesworks project, led by the Honourable Member for Middlesbrough, who I've given advance notice to. Will he confirm that it was always an integral part of the business case that the private sector should co-invest alongside government, and that the Teesworks arrangements themselves have been checked and approved by the government? And will he reconfirm his full support for the Teesworks project, reassure investors, and join me in calling for the Labour Party to apologise for talking down Teesside?
Well, my right honourable friend is absolutely correct to raise this issue. It is the UK's first free port, and it continues to attract billions of pounds of private sector investment, creating jobs and supporting the local economy. And I think the whole House will see through the inexcusable attempts by the Labour Party to talk down those successes on Teesside, where local leaders are working tirelessly to improve that region for the first time in a generation.
Mr. Speaker, in 2011, the first year that the Tories came into government, 61,000 people received emergency food parcels from food banks. In 2022-23, that figure had gone up to nearly 3 million. 1 million of them children. It's gone up every year that the Conservatives have been in power bar one. So, will he tell the House, is that a record that he proudly defends?
I'm very proud of the fact that this government has given record numbers of people the opportunity to have jobs and employment, which is the surest route out of poverty. And it is the case that I believe up to 3.6 million new jobs have been created under this government.
Mr. Speaker, it's truly excellent news to see England rising up the international league tables for reading to become the highest performing country in the Western world. That's testament to the hard work of our teachers and the dedication of our honourable friend for Bognor to follow evidence-based policy. But this progress will only be sustained if children are in school regularly, able to learn. So can I strongly commend to him and to the